My name is Claire Evans. I'm 28 years old, and I've been married to Tom for 5 years. 5 years of what I thought was happiness, or at least stability.
It was ordinary.
Comfortable. Safe. Or so I thought. Now, I don't know what's real anymore. It started with the card. I found it tucked into the wreath on the front door, nestled between fake holly and red velvet ribbon. At first, I thought it was a holiday greeting, one of those impersonal cards from neighbors or Tom's coworkers. But when I opened it, the words hit me like a slap. I can't stop thinking about last Christmas. About the way your hands felt.
I ache for you, Jay.
I froze. My fingers tightened around the card until the edges bent. Jay, who the hell was Jay? The house smelled like pine needles and cinnamon. Festive, safe. Tom was in the kitchen, humming while the coffee brewed. He had no idea I was standing in the hallway with my pulse pounding in my throat. Claire, he called out. Coffee's ready. I shoved the card into my robe pocket. Coming, I said, and I hated how normal my voice sounded. But my mind was anything but normal. I spent the morning decorating the house, hanging lights, arranging ornaments, trying to keep my hands busy. But the words wouldn't leave me alone. I ache for you. Tom walked past me once, kissed my cheek as I struggled to untangle a string of lights. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I lied.
And he believed me.
The second card came 3 days later. I found it on the doorstep, nestled in the snow like a poisoned gift. My fingers were trembling before I even opened it. I'll see you soon. My breath caught. I stared at the card, then at the house. Was he watching me? Was he laughing? I couldn't let it go. The next day, my husband's Christmas party at work came around. I wore a red dress. If Jay was going to be at the party, I wanted him to look at me. Tom couldn't stop staring at me as I walked down the stairs. You look amazing, he said, his voice low and raspy. I smiled, but inside I was falling apart. The party was at the Lantern Inn, all fairy lights and mistletoe. Couples huddled together, stealing kisses under ribbons and bells, but I wasn't there for the romance. I was there to watch, to hunt. And then I saw her. She was standing near the bar, laughing too loudly, dressed in emerald green that hugged every curve. Her lipstick was red, the same shade as my dress. And when Tom walked over to her, touched her back lightly, too lightly, my heart split wide open. I didn't think. I just moved. Hi, I said, stepping between them. I don't think we've met. Tom blinked, caught off guard. Claire, this is Jessica. She's on my team. Jessica's smile was too perfect, too sharp.
Pleasure to meet you, she said.
Tom talks about you all the time. Her nails, red, polished, deadly, dug into her glass. And when she leaned closer to Tom, I knew. She didn't look at me like a stranger, but like a rival. Tom moved to my side, brushing his hand against my arm, too gently, like he was trying to keep me calm, like he thought I'd be torn apart if he touched me too hard. But my blood was boiling, and the only thing stopping me from throwing my drink in his face was the fact that I wanted answers first. How long have you been working with my husband? I asked, my voice sweeter than it had any right to be. Jessica smiled again, that little curve to her lips. Oh, a few months. But we've become very close. Haven't we, Tom? Tom coughed into his drink, his eyes darting back and forth. Claire, can we? No, I interrupted, moving closer to Jessica. Tell me, Jessica, do you have a habit of writing anonymous love cards? Or was it a special occasion? Jessica, clearly confused and annoyed, turned to Tom. What the hell is going on? I don't know what problems you have with your wife, but I'd appreciate it if you left me out of it. I've been away for 2 months on a work trip, and I just got back today. Her voice was sharp, her posture defensive. Either she was telling the truth, or she was a very good actress. Before I could press further, Tom stepped in. He grabbed my arm and pulled me aside, his face flushed with anger. What was that, Claire? What do you think you're doing? I shook his hand off, my chest heaving. I want answers, Tom. But he didn't look at me with guilt. He looked nervous. Answers? About what? I reached into my purse and shoved the cards at him. His eyes flicked over the words, and for the first time that night, I saw it fear. "I don't know what this is," he said, his voice low and sharp. "But I hope you haven't just ruined my job over some crazy jealousy." I stared at him, searching his face, but it was locked tight. Was it panic, guilt, or something else? The drive home was silent. Tom kept his eyes on the road, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. I stared out the window, my mind racing. Jessica's words echoed in my head. "I've been away for 2 months. I just got back today." Was she telling the truth? Or was she just a better liar than I thought? By the time we pulled into the driveway, the tension was suffocating. I stepped out of the car without a word and headed straight for the front door. Inside, the house felt colder than it had when we left. I kicked off my heels and started up the stairs, desperate to escape, to shut the door behind me and put space between us. But before I could make it halfway up, I felt Tom's hand close around my wrist. "Claire, wait." I turned, ready to push him away, but before I could, his lips were on mine.
Hard.
Desperate. I wanted to resist, wanted to shove him off and demand more answers. But my body betrayed me, just like it always did with him. His hands were everywhere, rough, urgent, as he pressed me back against the wall. My breath hitched as his mouth moved down my neck, and suddenly, nothing else mattered. Not the cards, not Jessica, not the doubts swirling in my head. It was just us, tangled together on the stairs, our clothes falling away in pieces. It felt reckless and raw, like the first time, and for a moment it was enough. Later, as we lay tangled in a mess of limbs and half-whispered apologies, Tom brushed my hair back and looked at me, really looked at me. "I can't believe you thought I was cheating on you," he said, his voice low and almost hurt. "And all because of some stupid cards someone left outside the house." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. His fingers traced circles on my back, grounding me, but my mind wouldn't stop spinning. Jessica had only known him for a few months, and the card, the first one, had mentioned last Christmas. Could it really just be a mistake? A misunderstanding? I let out a shaky breath. "Maybe someone got the wrong house," I said quietly, more to convince myself than him. Tom kissed my shoulder, pulling me closer. "Exactly." And for that moment, I let myself believe it. 2 days later, I found a third card. This time, it wasn't hidden outside or slipped under the door.
It was in Tom's planner.
I'd been searching for a pen, rifling through his things when I saw it, tucked between meeting notes and grocery lists. My fingers trembled as I pulled it out, already knowing what it would say before I read it. "I thought about you all night. I need to see you. Tonight."
Jay.
My stomach dropped. No more doubts. Jessica and Tom, those bastards, were playing me. At lunch, Tom told me he'd be working late. "Big project," he said casually, not even looking up as he tied his tie. "Don't wait up." He kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong, like he wasn't lying straight to my face. And that was the moment I decided, enough. I was done being the fool. That night, I waited, sat in my car down the street, engine idling, eyes fixed on the door. When he finally stepped out, I let him get a head start before pulling into traffic, keeping my distance but never letting him out of sight. He drove out of town, past the glowing Christmas lights and cheerful decorations, until the streets turned darker, emptier. And then I saw it, a motel. The place looked like something out of a nightmare, dim lights buzzing over peeling paint, shadows stretching too long in the parking lot. Tom pulled in and parked along the side of the building, his car tucked out of view. My heart slammed against my ribs. My hands were sweating against the steering wheel, but I didn't stop.
Not now.
Not when I was this close. I killed the engine, left the car crooked in the lot, and ran. I rounded the corner just in time to see him, to see them, but it wasn't Jessica. I froze. The world tilted, blurred at the edges.
It couldn't be.
Jenny, my mother. I wanted to vomit. They didn't see me, not at first. Tom was smiling, as he touched her face, brushed her hair back the way he used to do with me. And then, God help me, He kissed her. My mother leaned into him, her arms curling around his neck like it was the most natural thing in the world. And then they disappeared inside one of the rooms. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was caving in, the pain sharp and deep, like someone had taken a knife and driven it straight through me. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I pressed my hand to my mouth, trying to muffle the sob threatening to rip out of me. The motel spun, blurred, and I thought I might collapse right there in the parking lot. My mother. My own mother. I didn't know how long I stood there. Minutes? Hours? Time felt meaningless. All I knew was the cold, the ache in my bones, the sound of blood pounding in my ears. And the image, Tom and Jenny disappearing behind that door, played on repeat. I wanted to scream, to break something, to tear the world apart until it made sense again. But instead, I walked back to my car, got inside, and sat there, waiting. I sat in the car outside the motel, staring at the door where they had disappeared.
Tom.
And my mother. The words echoed in my head, sharp and unrelenting. My chest ached, my hands trembled, but I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I thought about what I could do next. Revenge. Confrontation. Escape. Surrender.
For choices.
For endings. But which one should it be? I don't know what to do.
Not yet.
So tell me, what would you do? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'll read every single one. And maybe then, I'll know how this story ends.